been a war of late in the so-called YouTube skeptical community between Sargon of Akkad and Thunderfoot over a video that Sargon and a bunch of other people made making fun of the death of one of the living girlfriends of the skeptical feminist by his hand. Now, I don't care if they intended it to be a joke, as I think Sargon said that they shouldn't make fun of it, but there's no good that can come from a tragedy like this, no matter how you spin it. So, a lot of YouTubers came out criticizing everybody involved in the video, plus others who've basically done the same thing. And Thunderfoot made a video essentially saying he opted out of the whole skeptical community because it was becoming toxic, at least according to him. Now, yeah, I will agree, there's a lot of immature dicks out there in every online community, skeptic and otherwise. I'm not saying that everyone involved in this was an asshole, I mean that's up to you to decide. But I will say that Thunderfoot has something of a point. And that doesn't mean that I necessarily like Thunderfoot. I mean, I've never really been a fan. But hey, even the most wrong people can be right once in a while. But the worthwhile point is that the skeptical community on YouTube is essentially shit. In fact, most communities online are garbage, especially when they deal with controversial topics. And that's why I'm not a joiner. I don't wear labels. I'm an individual that may, at my discretion, make friends with certain individuals with whom I agree and collaborate, but otherwise, thanks but no thanks. Because joining a group doesn't actually prove anything I'm interested in. I hold no false delusions that what I do online is valuable. I don't pretend that I'm going to change the world, and neither should you. So, being part of a group isn't going to do more than give me visibility within that group, but it can certainly bring me shame because people are going to see the members of that group, should something stupid like this happen, as equally responsible, or at the very least, as potentially bad people. I don't need that. And it's not like I'm trying to put down people who had what I view as a lapse in judgment over the skeptical feminist thing, but we all know that the feminists are going to use that indiscretion against all of us, even those of us who don't play well with others. I'm not part of your club. I have no interest in it, and frankly, I think it ought to be embarrassing to you. You want to know what else is embarrassing? That stupid Kekistani nonsense. Grow the hell up and act like adults. You sound like a cult. And honestly, MGTOW too. That's patently absurd. Alright, it might be fun, but I think that some of these people want to be taken seriously, and you're sure not going to be taken seriously when you're making up anthems to some non-existent country. It just makes you all look like a bunch of idiots. So I'm really not sure what to make of these people, but they're sure not getting any respect as individuals and skeptics when they act that way. And maybe they don't care, I don't know. But the more that people pay them any mind, especially those people that are trying to present themselves as intellectuals and skeptics, the less credible they actually look. And that's the thing. These are actually important topics to discuss. Religion, politics, social justice, and feminism, they're incredibly worthwhile ideas that we need to examine and evaluate intellectually, and a bunch of people with silly hats singing silly songs just makes the whole thing look ridiculous. It harms us all, and I don't think these people give a damn. They're in it for the fun. They're in it for the lols, not for the function. But that still makes it all look bad. And that's why I'm not a member of the YouTube skeptical community. I mean, I'm on YouTube and other platforms, and I'm a skeptic, but I've got no interest in being part of the community. I'm not part of the club. I have zero interest in it. I don't want to be a member. I'm just fine on my own, because I don't have to share my successes, and I don't have to share in other people's failures. And you have to remember that the other side is every bit as bad as the so-called skeptical community. They make up silly groups, and then membership in those groups becomes more important than the issues themselves. Remember Atheism Plus? It turned into a cult. You're either with us or against us. You're either a member or you're a chud, according to Richard Carrier. So join the groupthink and double down on the stupidity. That's what these groups want. But part of being a skeptic is actually being skeptical of everything. And that means asking questions and not just accepting answers because they feel good. You should only accept something as true if it can be actually demonstrated to be true, if it can be supported by objective evidence, and if it makes sense rationally and critically. But what we're seeing in the so-called skeptical community is essentially 4chan gone wild. And that's because it's all essentially immature children acting like immature children, shitposting for the sake of shitposting, posting idiotic memes because they just don't have the intellectual acumen to do any better. You know, when Thunderfoot's father died of cancer a while back, which I can certainly identify with because cancer killed my own father, the SJW side was acting like complete pricks over it. And the anti-SJW side correctly called them out on it. They were being assholes. But the second the skeptical feminist thing comes along, the anti-SJW side turns around and just starts being complete pricks back, apparently not learning anything from the previous experience. Because these are children, immature little shits who wouldn't know the high road if it bit them in the ass. And they don't care. They aren't fighting a culture war as they pretend. They're just having a pissing contest to see who can be the bigger jackass. It just isn't pretty. So, no thanks. I want nothing to do with any of you fucks. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, and if you're not, then you're terrible human beings. And that goes for both sides of this. It's funny that as I write this video, I'm having a discussion over on Minds about this very thing, and everyone involved agrees this whole thing is a shit show. There are no winners here, only losers. And maybe the biggest problem of all is that if you join one of these communities, not only do you look bad when someone in the group does something stupid, but you're pressured to support those stupid people because they're part of your in-group. And if you don't, people get mad at you because they're on your side. No, they're not. Nobody's on my side. I'm the only one on my side. I don't ask for mindless sycophants. I don't expect anyone to support me if I do something idiotic. And in fact, I want people to call me out on it. I ought to get only as much respect as I earn, not a bit more, not a bit less. Being part of the same club ought to have no bearing on that fact whatsoever. So what do you think? Are these supposed communities, official or not, worthwhile? Or are they just collectivist nonsense? It's an endless war between emotional children, and I, for one, am sick of it. They all need to grow the hell up and act like adults. Wouldn't that be nice?
Everything changes.